What's good, Southeast Michigan Podcast? Daniel back with you for episode 81. The Southeast Michigan Podcast is free and available wherever you consume podcasts. Up on YouTube, click the bell for notification, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you could please be so kind to rate the show a 5-star and share with other Michigan fans or other sports fans in general. But we're back for another episode here, of course. We kind of touched base a little over a week ago with U of M basketball, football, hockey, and we're kind of getting back into the swing of things, trying to do once a week, maybe twice a week. And this week, same thing, touching all three. There's some articles I want to read you. Of course, this past weekend was kind of a letdown for Michigan fans. The hockey underperformed, stumbled at home in a best of 3 series versus Penn State. I was there for game 2 with my son, and we all know what transpired on Sunday yesterday. That was the Michigan State basketball game, and so Michigan basketball will not even be getting a shared title of the regular season, and they at least have a double bye here for the upcoming conference tournament this weekend, looking ahead. But let's get into segment 1 first. Let's talk some football. Let's see here. NFL Draft Combine. So Michigan sent, what was it? 3, 4, 6, what was it? A little like 10 or 11 players to the combine. Donovan Edwards ran the 40-yard dash, did the vertical jump, got the measurements, ran a 4.44. Mason Graham was there. Didn't run the 40, but did 24 bench reps. Kenneth Grant did 22 reps, no 40. Miles Hinton didn't do the bench, basically just went there for measures. Will Johnson just did his measurements. He's apparently dealing with a hamstring injury. Be interesting to see what happens with his draft stock. Projected first round pick, but we're looking at like maybe the top 10. We're looking at the top 10, or was looking at the top 10, possibly later in the back end, but apparently supposed to be ready for pro day. Colston Loveland basically just did measurements. Clem Mullings just did measurements. Josiah Stewart measurements. And I would assume that's pretty much all that was in Indianapolis. That's of note. But you have draft eligible guys. The ones that I've already mentioned: Amir Hall, though, Keyshawn Harris, Quentin Johnson, Josh Preeb, Bakari Page, William Wagner, who was the long snapper, and Wesley Walker. So you have that. Let's see here. What else do I have up here? Let's read this one article here by Jared Johnson. This was 4 days ago. This was Michigan Wolverines on SI. If you are on the video version, I'll pull up the article right now. You can follow along. So yes, Jared Johnson from Michigan Wolverines SI says, nothing is ever guaranteed in the NFL draft. We all remember cannot miss prospects like Jamarcus Russell, puke, or Michigan State receiver Charles Rogers. Those two players went number 1 and number 2 respectively and just never found their footing in the NFL. As much as it is a disappointment for the player, missing on a high first-round draft pick can set a football team back years. Top 10 picks are expected to compete for playing time in year 1 and at a minimum be solidly in the rotation in year 2. A swing and miss on a player that high in the draft costs a program that is generally in a rebuild, time and money. First round picks get bonuses and guaranteed money, two things you do not get back when a pick fails to reach expectations. Knowing all this, PFF analyst Max Chadwick recently labeled Michigan's Mason Graham as the safest pick in this year's draft class. quote, Mason Graham is about as safe of a bet as there is in this draft class, unquote. Graham has been projected as a top 5 pick in most mock drafts, a testament to his game tape at the University of Michigan. Graham was borderline unstoppable at times and always seemed to show out when the lights were the brightest. When asked about what teams should know about him if they were considered drafting him, he simply stated, go watch the Ohio State tape, saying a 21-year-old college kid is basically a lock to reach his NFL potential is a bold move, but based on Graham's track record and work ethic, it seems like a viable risk. So, yes, Mason Graham, top 5, Jacksonville Jaguars. As a Raiders fan, wouldn't mind him getting picked up at 6. However, I would like Shedeur Sanders, even though we just signed Geno Smith. But Geno Smith is, of course, going to be the bridge guy. He's no long-term quarterback whatsoever. So I'll be really curious to see what Pete Carroll does. I know this isn't a Raiders podcast, but like I said, if I got Mason Graham, I'd be totally happy and fine with that. Will Johnson, I wouldn't mind that either. Feel like that might be a little of a bit of a reach at this point, but we'll see. This one was by Clayton Sayfie, and on 3, 4 Michigan players appear in ESPN 2-round NFL mock draft. This was from 2 days ago. The most first-round picks Michigan Wolverines football had in a draft is 3 back in 1995 and 2001, but the program has a great chance of breaking its record in 25. 4 Michigan players appeared in the first 16 picks of ESPN analyst Jordan Reed's 2-round mock draft, all of them safely in the opening round. The Wolverines, who are projected that high, are defensive tackle Mason Graham, number 5 to the Jacksonville Jaguars, cornerback Will Johnson, number 11 to the San Francisco 49ers, which I feel like would be a great landing spot. Tight end Colston Loveland, number 14, the Indianapolis Colts, which I think he's going to go to the Chargers. And defensive tackle Kenneth Grant, number 16, to the Arizona Cardinals. It's kind of, I won't say an homage, but, shades of Alan Branch in Arizona, right? Mason Graham, number 5 overall, the Jaguars. Jacksonville has been a popular projected destination for Grant, who's the first defensive tackle listed in the mock. I think he's meant to say Graham. The players who were selected ahead of him are Miami quarterback Cam Ward, number 1 to the New York Giants, Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders, number 2 to the Cleveland Browns, Penn State edge Abdul Carter to the Tennessee Titans, and Travis Hunter to the New England Patriots at 4. Reed projected that Tennessee will trade the first pick to the Giants' 3rd overall spot. Let's see here. Graham surprisingly weighed 296 pounds at the combine after being listed at 320 at Michigan, but the scouts I talked to weren't phased. His hand speed and ability to deconstruct blocks are among the best in a deep defensive line class, and his 19 pressures were tied for 21st in the FBS among defensive tackles. The two-time first team All Big Ten selection collected 45 tackles, including 7 for loss, 3.5 sacks, 3 pass breakups, and 24. He became Michigan's first unanimous All-American defensive tackle since Mark Messner in 1988. If Graham does come off the board at number 5, he'd be the highest drafted Michigan defensive tackle of the Common Era since 1970. Not going to read all of these because, you know what? The hell with it. Let's breeze through these real quick. This is Will Johnson. So Johnson sat out of the combine drills, but is set to participate in Michigan's March 21st Pro Day. His stock is already sky high, considering one of the best cornerbacks in the draft class. He's a top player at his position off the board in his mock, when taking out Hunter, who also plays wide receiver. Defensive line is an option as the 49ers need help along the interior. Reed wrote they could also pick an offensive tackle to kickstart their succession for All-Pro Trent Williams, who will be 37 this upcoming season. But Johnson's value at this pick would be too good for San Francisco to pass up. He's arguably the best corner in this year's draft, depending on where you put Travis Hunter, and has a prototypical size for the position, 6'2", 194. Johnson's technique and ball skills are among the best in the 2025 draft. If Johnson is number 9, if Johnson is taken number 9, he'd be the highest drafted Michigan cornerback since Charles Woodson went to 4 for the Oakland Raiders in 1998. Colston Loveland, Loveland is coming off a standout junior season that saw him haul in 56 catches for 582 yards and 5 touchdowns. All Michigan team high marks. He was second all team Big Ten and second team All America, considered the second best tight end in the class behind Penn State's Tyler Warren. The Colts had the fewest receiving yards from the tight ends in the NFL in 2024. Reed wrote they also need to add the position because Mo Alley Cox is set to be a free agent. Loveland performed well despite erratic Michigan quarterback play this season. He's a glorified big receiver who transitioned in and out of the breaks with ease while showing excellent hands. He's better flexed out but can play in line if needed. Loveland could create mismatches and be a safety blanket for quarterback Anthony Richards. If Loveland does hear his name called in the opening round, he'd be the first Michigan tight end to accomplish that feat since Paul Seymour was selected by the Buffalo Bills number 7 overall in 1973. Lastly here, Kenneth Grant. Didn't work out at the combine, as I noted a second ago, missing events with a hamstring injury despite intending on testing. However, the Michigan standout still considered a first-round selection. He posted 32 tackles, 6.5 stops for a loss, 3 sacks, 5 pass breakups on the year. His 12 career pass breakups are the most by a defensive lineman in Michigan history. The Cardinals badly need high-quality starters on the defensive line, Reed wrote. Grant steadily improved this season, which was his first in a full-time starting role. He responded well to increased snap counts, playing 30 or more snaps in 10 games in 2024 after doing so only 6 times in 23. The 6'3", 332-pound lineman is an explosive wrecking ball of potential. He needs more consistency in his pad level, but the traits are impossible to ignore. I really think that Kenneth Grant, his ceiling could be wherever Jalen Carter gets to. I feel like he gets put into the shadows that is Mason Graham way too much. I think that Kenneth Grant has the has a possibility of even being better than Mason Graham in the NFL. I know Graham is really good, but I think Grant is very underrated. I really feel like he could be a solid, long time Hall of Fame, possibly level DT. All right, so this one was from Mason Brew from Grace Folk. This was on March 5th. We are recording on the 10th here, so 5 days ago. What analysts are saying about Michigan Wolverines post-NFL Combine. Multiple Wolverines were invited to the NFL Combine, but many of them did not participate in the drills and workouts. However, at least one former Wolverine may have made himself some more money with a great performance in Indianapolis. Here's what some analysts are saying about the former Wolverines with the NFL Combine behind us. Donovan Edwards is competing for attention in a loaded running back draft class, but he's had great practices and performance in the Senior Bowl and the NFL Combine. While he's not necessarily leaping out to any of the experts, he's definitely improving his draft stock with a competitive 40-yard dash time and an impressive bench press. He received an honorable mention for all combine team put together by NFL.com's Nick Shook. So here we go. Let's watch Tom Edwards real fast. No sound? Here we go.
Stumble on the start here.
4.45 nonetheless.
Yeah, he can go even faster than that.
Donovan Edwards getting a nice round of applause here in Indianapolis.
And you can see right there, Jaden Blue from Texas with a 4.4. All right, Mason Graham. While Graham opted to not participate at this year's combine, his measurements appear to worry some people. Pro Football Focus's Max Chadwick says that's not something to worry about when it comes to Mason Graham's playing size, and teams in need of defensive linemen should still get excited about what he brings to the table. Important context surrounding Mason Graham's combine weight. Sources told me he played 320 as a sophomore, hence the listed weight. Played around 315 this past season due to snap count going up. 599 compared to 474. Lost weight during training down to, 300 pounds, and was going to do drills before bruising his heel. So his actual playing weight is around 315, not 295. Okay, so that was from Max Chadwick. Colston Loveland. While most mock drafts still have Loveland being picked in the first round, there are some analysts who think his injury may hold him back. Loveland didn't compete in the Senior Bowl nor the NFL Combine, and his status for Michigan's Pro Day is questionable at best. For some, this might make him a day 2 pick, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's a bit of a stretch. Miles Hinton. Hinton seems to be one of the offensive linemen who's getting some attention after the combine, as the Draft Network thinks he's an underrated prospect with the draft. Hinton did the 20-yard shuttle drill in 4.96 seconds, and his vertical jump of 31.5 inches. Still, NFL.com has him as the number 24 offensive tackle in this year's draft class. Kenneth Grant, despite being pulling out of workouts, he did participate in the bench press, blah, 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 22 reps. Did not run the 40-yard dash because of the hamstring injury. Former Michigan tight end Jake Butt thinks he's going to be the biggest freak in this year's draft class. Josiah Stewart opted to forego the workouts at the combine, but he's still getting attention from analysts for teams around the league. While his composite grade after the combine wasn't great, one writer covering the Giants said Stewart is able to seamlessly blend power, speed, and finesse as a pass rusher. Last but not least, here, Will Johnson, despite recovering from an injury and not participating in drills at the combine, it's likely that Johnson will still be one of the first cornerbacks selected in the 2025 draft. Justin Mello with the Draft Network says he should still be a top cornerback in the league, citing his versatility and athleticism. So nothing new there on Will Johnson. Let's get into some more football stuff here real quick before I want to talk about Wink Martindale and this article here from MLive Ann Arbor. This is from Ryan Zucchi 4 days ago. Michigan football getting a great all-around athlete, Arkansas transfer. Michigan's football program lost both of its starting safeties from 2024 in Makari Page and Quentin Johnson, but might have found a suitable replacement from the Southeastern Conference. The Wolverines landed brothers TJ and Tevis Metcalf from Arkansas via the NCAA transfer portal this offseason, with TJ being the more experienced of the two. The 6'1", 200-pound safety started for the 7-6 Razorbacks as a sophomore last season and totaled 57 tackles, 7 pass breakups, and 3 interceptions, including 2 against Auburn in Week 4. He's very physical. Arkansas's leading receiver from last season, Andrew Armstrong, said of TJ at last week's NFL Combine in Indianapolis. He's very physical to the point of attack. He is fast. He can cover. He's just a great all-around athlete. The brothers' football genes run deep. They are cousins with Seattle Seahawks star wide receiver DK Metcalf, who is widely considered one of the most athletic players in the league, while their father played at Ole Miss. Tevis was a freshman in 2024 and primarily played on special teams, but he will have an opportunity to compete for more playing time in the Wolverines' cornerback room this season. Arkansas receiver Isaac TeSlaa, a Michigan native who began his career at Hillsdale College before spending his final 2 years with the Razorbacks, said they are a good fit for the Wolverines. TJ, a former 3-star recruit from Alabama, was offered a scholarship by Michigan out of high school. He's a physical player, fast. TeSlaa said of TJ at the combine, him and his brother together, that's a dynamic duo right there. I'm excited for both of them. I'm going to be rooting for the Hogs, of course, but I grew up a Michigan fan, so I'm happy for both of them. Fast, physical, smart players. Michigan begins spring practice March 18th, and TJ figures to have a better chance of earning an immediate starting role. 3-year starting safety Rod Moore, who missed all of 2024 recovering from a knee injury, is back in 2025, but the other starting safety spot is up for grabs. Junior Brandon Hillman, sophomore Mason Curtis, and redshirt sophomore Jane Mangum are also expected to be in the mix, but TJ is the most experienced of the group. They getting a dog, Armstrong said. They getting someone who is going to grind and work. TJ Metcalf is one of those players that when he steps onto the field, he doesn't want to lose. He don't want to do nothing wrong. He's one of those players who wants to be great. And when you got a guy who wants to be great and have a great team around him with a strength staff, coaching staff, training staff, TJ Metcalf is going to be one of those greats. So, yeah, obviously we are light years away from this upcoming season. Speaking with Rod Moore, of course, it was rumored that, I want to say rumored, a lot of people know that by now that he had a slight setback in his recovery. So if Rod Moore comes back, I think as with the information we have right now, I think it's going to be a gradual transition, and maybe you get Rod Moore back at like 85-90%, health, and gradually as the season goes on, he'll either sneak back into full-time duty, or maybe he doesn't. I don't know. Of course, I'm not on the coaching staff. I mean, that's obvious, but um, having a gruesome injury that he dealt with, and not seeing the field at all, like players don't. You have to be an alien to come back and recover full strength like that. It takes time. All right, last but not least for the football segment here, um, Wink Martindale. This was from Scotty White at ClutchPoints.com. One day ago, Wink Martindale gets 100% real about the future with Michigan football. Wink Martindale was just recently on In the Trenches with John Jansen. Highly recommend listening to that. That was a nice little interview. Chip Lindsey was also interviewed on that same podcast. So, got to get kind of some football food for you in the off season. Go consume that. Article starts: defense was definitely the strength of Michigan football team last season, but it took a while for the unit to find its groove. After the 2023 season, Michigan lost a lot of good defensive talent to the NFL. Defensive coordinator Jesse Minter also left for the pros. Wink Martindale was hired to replace Minter, and the Wolverines ended up with one of the best defenses in college football, despite a shaky start. However, Martindale almost went back to the NFL after the year ended. Wink Martindale coached in the NFL from 2003 until 2023 before coming to Michigan. He had an impressive first year, and that led to some NFL interviews. Nothing came of them, and Martindale will return to Michigan next season. And we touched this in the last episode, talking about the Falcons and the Colts, two jobs he interviewed that those respected NFL teams, whatever, hired elsewhere. Michigan fans weren't happy with how the defense performed during the first half of the season, but after the way the Wolverines played during their final few games, everyone's opinion on Martindale changed. Michigan fans want him in Ann Arbor, and it doesn't sound like he wants to leave anytime soon. Quote, I said when I came here that was an exciting time for me, Martindale said during a recent appearance on In the Trenches podcast. It was different going from the league to the college, but it would take a lot for me to go back to the NFL. I told both Ward and Sharon when I took this job that I would listen to anyone, and I think where I'm at in my career, really, I deserve that right to do that. It was one of those things that things weren't perfect anywhere or anything else. I'm just going to stay at Michigan because I do love it here. That's not recruiting or anything else. I do love it here, and I love the players here. End quote. Michigan held Ohio State and Alabama to a combined 23 points, absurd, in the final two games of the season. Those games changed the perception of the season, and expectations are high for the defense going forward because of those performances. We had a lot of fun, especially toward the end of the year, and I'm looking forward to starting that all over again, Martindale added. If the Wolverines defense can play like they did at the end of last year, the Michigan football team has a chance to have a special season, special year. The Wolverines should have better quarterback play next season, and it will make a big difference. So there you have it for segment one. I wanted to bang out those articles, and the combine is an interesting thing too. To go back to that, a lot of these guys now just they rather just like a bowl game. They opt out of the combine. They want to just stay home. They want to work out with their coaches, with their training staff, do their pro day, call it a day. I know the combine's just not what it used to be, and of course the highlights really are the 40-yard times and how good the quarterbacks look when they're throwing, and not a lot of quarterbacks throw. JJ McCarthy kind of had an up and down training combine sesh last season, and Will Howard had a rough one. So of course Twitter was a pleasant place to be, trying to compare and troll each other, the fan bases that is. But excuse me. Either way, that's segment one. When we come back, we are going to get into the football side of things, or excuse me, basketball side of things.
critical ones now on their last 2 possessions.
They're going to hold it. Yeah, I think Tom's. Oh,
Oh,
what a
no!
steal!
Burke! Michigan back on top. He stole it clean from Appling.
Appling was looking at Tom Izzo.
And goes too strong. 3-point game. Burke pulls it down. 5 seconds. Fires for 3. Game is tied. He's tied it. Are you kidding me? Trey Burke, that's why he's the Big Ten Player of the Year, All-American. On a night when his jump shot has been sporadic at best, launches a 30-footer under pressure, knocks it down. Unbelievable comeback by the Wolverines. Trey Burke with 18 points. All have come in the second half.
Oh boy, what a time to be alive, Michigan fans. Welcome back to the next segment here. Talking about Michigan hoops. Little Trey Burke tribute there. Of course, the Michigan State turnover steal on Keith Appling, and you know the Steph Curry from Mars against Kansas to tie it up. Anyways, let's get into segment 2 here. Yeah, this Michigan basketball team, like we talked about last episode, going into the season, my expectations personally was if this team can get competing for 6th place in the Big Ten, that would be a huge win. Dusty May is overhauling this program, getting all new transfers, incoming freshman class, a lot of moving parts. This team was going to needed time to gel and basically get stronger over the season. But in turn, and in fact, this team actually got worse as the season went on. The losses they had early on to mid-season were single digits, 2 points here, 1 point there. Yeah, outside of the shellacking they took in West Lafayette versus Purdue in game 1 of that series. I mentioned in the last episode too, up until that Minnesota game on the road where they lost by the buzzer beater, this team was the nation's best in 2-point field goal percentage. This team down the stretch has really fallen apart, and it's disappointing now because we've seen where this team was at. In sole possession of first place after the Purdue win. Had a chance to distance itself from Michigan State in Chrysler, couldn't do it. Had a chance to share the title with MSU if they went out and beat Maryland and took care of Michigan State at the Breslin Center, which that didn't happen. So it's disappointing because of where this team did get to and just ultimately fell apart. Obviously, the turnovers have been a huge problem all season. They kind of were tamed at one point, and then they have now just ballooned. This team goes in some huge stretches where it's just scoring drought after scoring drought. The MSU game the other night, or yesterday, they have just an abysmal first half. Let's pull that up. They go into the half. Let's see, what were they down? This isn't. Come on, give me the. Okay. Apparently, I clicked on the wrong thing. So they go into the half down 50-28. When you look at that, it's just eye popping. Like, excuse me, please, what? They rattle off 34 in the second half. They hold MSU to only 29 points. And at one point, Michigan goes on a 14-0 run. It just wasn't enough. Vlad Golden had 29 points, and he's seemingly been the most consistent player Danny Wolf has really tanked his draft stock, going from a first round NBA draft pick to potentially getting rated so poorly enough to where he's going to have to come back for a second year at Michigan. But Vlad Golden, the last 4 games, I mean, he's 29 points versus MSU, 20 versus Maryland, 22 versus Illinois, 24 versus Rutgers. Like right out the gate. I made a comment earlier in the year, in the opening part of the season, 2, 8, 8, 8, 12, 8. And then really at the Xavier game, he scored 18, and it was, the rest was history. He had one poor game versus Penn State where they eked out a win, but for the most part, this dude is really carrying this team offensively, and it really came down to just being more aggressive. He's getting to the free throw line a lot. He went 11 of 14 against MSU. He kind of tapered off on the 3-point shooting in mid part of the season. If you're looking, and see, do I even have it on the screen? Yeah, if you're looking on the screen, by early mid January, he was taking anywhere between 2 and 6 3-pointers a game, and then that really fell off. But this team lacks a solid true point guard. Trey Donaldson, I really believed in early on. He's been kind of a liability, and he's another guy where I made a comment about his free throw percentage. When you go into the March Madness tournament, when you go to the NCAA tournament, that is, even the conference title or the conference tournament championship, like, you need to limit turnovers. You need to have strong point guard play, and they just don't have it. They don't have one guy outside of Vlad that they can truly feed the ball to and get production from. It's what's Anthony Wright, former Michigan player, whatever, active on Twitter. He put a piece of film out there, if you will, or recorded a part of the game. It's just like it's pass, dribble, stop, gather, pass, dribble, stop, gather, and it's just there's no flow. Of course, Roddy Gale has been a thorn in Michigan's side, especially in the eyes of the Michigan fan base. We knew coming into the season that turnovers was his bugaboo. Made note of that last episode as well. And I want to say in this last game, he didn't even attempt a shot versus MSU, which, I mean, I normally I wouldn't care. I'd be happy for that because when Roddy Gale touches the ball, a lot of bad things happen. He had 1 point versus MSU, and that was at the free throw line. But again, with this team having my expectations set at 6th place, I'm not gonna, it's not gonna ruin my spring. It's not gonna ruin my year here. But obviously, getting to where they got, and crumbling, it has been disconcerting. And ironically, it's been after Dusty May got a nice sizable contract extension. I think they're 2-4 after that. So just the optics don't look great. Like I said, they got a double bye coming up this week to start the tournament. They are getting, was it the winner of Rutgers and Nebraska, plays Purdue, and then Michigan gets the winner of that game. So, if Michigan has to go up against Purdue, it makes me really nervous. It makes me nervous for this team to really face anybody. They have really not how to say. I just it's being a dead horse at this point, right? I really wanted to get into mainly the aftermath. We've I'll just leave it there. In terms of like the stats and the players themselves. This team, any given day, could beat anybody. I think this is going to be a one and done in the conference tournament. I think they're going to get maybe a 6 or 7 seed in the NCAA tournament, and I would not be surprised if there's a first round early exit. Could be wrong. A fire might be lit underneath these dudes' asses, but to finish the year 3 losses in a row, it's pretty disgusting. So, anyways, let's get into what I really brought you in here for was this post game. When I say post game, it's while the game is going on. This is a video that was posted by Spartans Illustrated on Twitter. If you are on the video pod portion, you can watch it right now. So let me pause it right there. Let me turn down the audio here. So as you see here, we got free throws coming up here for Justin Pippen. We got these MSU seniors kissing the floor, which is their paying tribute to their time here spent in East Lansing. Justin Pippen is got to take a free throw. We got these Michigan State players dapping each other up, and then all of a sudden you got Trey Holloman pushing LJ Cason, who's standing at midcourt. And of course, MSU fans booing the Wolverines. All the blame goes towards Michigan. Michigan's always instigating everything. When we go rewind this here, early in the video, you can see that number 5'8", whoever's wearing the douchey white headband, kisses the court, no problem, goes to the bench. There are no issues. And Trey Holloman has a problem with it. Of course, he's MSU's hero and all of it. This goes on and on and on. You get a technical foul. And then, of course, the little sister chants erupt afterwards. So I'll say this. If you were with me this past season, you know that a video I took on Twitter, I posted on Twitter. It was a video I took of the post-game scuffle with Kalel Mullings and Colson Loveland, on the football field. And it went viral because I had questioned if Kalel Mullings was curb stomping somebody. It was a massive, let's say, brawl, but there was just a ton of players and staff members on the field. It was hard to see anything. And at first glance, I had speculated that and raised the question, was Kalel Mullings stomping somebody? Turns out he was not. He was considered and validated of being the peacemaker. Now, optically, of course, you're going to have your bias lenses on, whether you're on the left or the right side here of this argument. That turns out to be an issue where I think Michigan State instigated it with Colson Loveland, and then it blew up there, right? I think the tunnel incident was very avoidable. I still think that Michigan State didn't have to do what they did, and it was pretty disgusting. Now, both teams, especially on the football field, have been very, in the wrong with the antics. Now, when it comes to this, you're gonna have to spare me with the tears, Michigan State. There has been so many. I tell you what, I'm not defending all. I mean, every fan base has got their douchebags, right? We all say that, but my goodness, is Spartan Twitter just full of morons, like calling the Michigan players thugs? Like, I know there's idiots out there, but there's some idiots that are being serious. LJ Kayson and Brooks or whoever the hell that is, they're just standing there. And whether they're keen to the tradition or not, I mean, the game's still going on. Pick a different time to kiss the floor or kiss a different part of the floor. It's just such nonsense. Um, I mean, let me know what you guys what your thoughts. Hit me up on the socials, comment on the episode if you want. But where's everyone's heads at? I think this is just another just excuse to pin this on the Wolverines. Again, I'm not saying Michigan has always been, you know, virtuous or whatever. Like that they've done wrong. They've done stupid things. But these last two skirmishes, especially with the football team this last year and then this, it's just to me MSU is just finding ways to just point the finger elsewhere. To me it's just stupid. It's nonsensical. Barstool's out there gaslighting this whole thing. It's just dumb. I can't believe we're even arguing about this. Of course, Tom Izzo's got to keep running his mouth, but Fat Brooks on Instagram had MSU fans in his comment section just call him all this and that. It's just despicable. It's absolutely despicable. So if you have a tradition, fine. Kiss the floor after the game or kiss it elsewhere. This ring can kiss my ass. There's just some stupid ass crap that's going on. Stupid crap being said. So, of course, I hold back. I've said a few things, mainly on my personal, Twitter account, but just nobody keeps it classy like that school in Ann Arbor. If it's Devin Bush or Taylor One, it's a fraud 5 and the bench warmers in the tunnels. Okay, always being leaders at best, like my friends, and it's just silliness, guys. It's just simply silliness. This Courtney Weil on Twitter, a lover of Jesus, my husband on all things Michigan State, senior editor at The Blaze, MAGA supporter, tweet killer. She tweeted at the video that we just watched. Two bench warmers suddenly act tough when their team getting pantsed. Center court at the Breslin is for winners. Step aside, punks. You were lucky. You were warned. So then I sent him the Dwight Schrute gif, or sent her the Dwight Schrute gif of "you're an idiot," and then she sends me a screenshot of the score like I don't know. Just a bunch of bona fide morons. So yeah, that's all I got to say. That I don't know. At this point in time, I'm so exhausted over the stupid antics, especially with the fan bases. Some of these MSU fans are just so self-righteous. It becomes borderline just sickening. Anyways, that was me pissing and moaning and bitching for 10 minutes about that. Glad that's over with. I felt like going after the last few games that Michigan's played, especially last time they played Michigan State. I knew going into that it was not watchable. Knew they were going to get their ass kicked, and so yeah, it's disappointing. But tied for second place, it's a program in the right direction compared to last year. Just things are happening at the wrong time, and so it kind of unfortunately thins out everything all the good that happened this year. It kind of just takes everything and puts it into the back of the minds, almost out of existence. It's unfortunate. So when we come back, we'll get into hockey and we'll wrap up the night. What's up, Southeast Michigan Podcast? When our community wins with us, we want to ensure you've maximized your ROI. Line shopping for the best odds matters, and that is why any profitable sports bettor needs to be using multiple sports books. Thankfully, there has never been a better time to get signed up. And we are here to connect you with the best promotions industry-wide. Using our link, signupexpert.com/southeast, you can get access to all sports books in your region, along with a review of each platform and its unique features. Most importantly, this page automatically connects you to the top promotions at each book, allowing you to start line shopping with an enhanced bankroll. If you want to take advantage of these benefits, like Fanatic Sportsbook right now, bet and get up to $1,000 in bonus bets, then please consider signing up for the next book at signupexpert.com/southeast. All right, Southeast Michigan Podcast, segment 3 coming up. Let's get into Michigan hockey. So, just like the basketball team, they have stumbled down the stretch. Michigan hockey is, potentially on the verge of not even making the NCAA tournament after making, was it 2 Frozen Fours in a row? Penn State takes care of business. They beat them in overtime on Friday. I go to game 2, and like I said in the beginning of the show, I took my son. Still had a great time. Still a nice father-son. Bonding memories, all that good stuff. But it was just it's been another just falling short of the goals. Penn State, definitely one of the hotter teams in America and in the Big Ten. Let's see here. I'll put up again if you're watching. I'll show you. This is their schedule here. So, last few days of January, they tie Ohio State, which was number 9 at the time. Shootout win. They then beat them in overtime. They then split the series with Michigan, won 5-4, lost 3-7. But then they sweep Wisconsin, which Penn State and Wisconsin essentially swap places. Wisconsin was kind of middle of the road pack, competitive team, can sneak one on you. And then Penn State was down at the bottom with Notre Dame, and they sweep the Badgers in early February. They sweep Notre Dame right after that. They go to East Lansing. They beat MSU in a shootout. Then they beat them straight up in regulation. And then they go on the road to Minnesota, win that first game in overtime, and then lose 3-5 the following day. And then obviously that propels them into the Big Ten tournament. They beat Michigan, like I said, 6-5 in OT, and then 5-2 on Saturday night. And with that loss to with Minnesota, that basically kept them out of making things interesting with Michigan, who had like the home ice and all that stuff. So Penn State was basically 8-2 or 8-1-1 in the last 10 games heading into last weekend. So as you can see, the final standings, Penn State finished 9-11 in the conference. Michigan was 12-10, but points wise, they were only 3 out. So MSU and Minnesota both finished with 50. Michigan State, though, has another conference title, and we'll see who takes the tournament. Penn State is playing Ohio State on March 15th, which is this Saturday, and MSU will have Notre Dame. So, I mean, at this point in time, it's looking to me like it's going to be MSU Penn State. I think it would be a gritty matchup. Penn State has just that classic scrappy blue collar field team to it. That's just the way they're coached. And I feel Michigan was just getting out hustled, and that has been Michigan's problem, especially when they go up against the elite teams. And I know I made a comment about this last week with Brandon Arado. I know he's taken them to the Frozen Four twice. They've had good postseason success the last 2 years, but as unfair as it may seem, the Michigan program it's been a long time since they've won a national championship, and as a program with all the talent that has rolled in here over the last, just say decade, last 5 years even, you feel like there should have been more out of the talent that skates every weekend. Adam Fantilli, Luke Hughes, the Hughes family in general, just all these guys that have strolled through Yost. If you feel like that there should have been something more in that trophy case from what we've seen. Before we go, I'd like to just real briefly read this article. So if you are again with the video portion, this is from Ryan Zucchi on M Live as well. We read one of his from earlier. This was a day ago. Michigan's NCAA tournament fate in limbo after swept in Big Ten first round. Michigan's hockey team will be anxiously waiting for selection Sunday on March 23rd. The 11th ranked Wolverines no longer control their NCAA tournament destiny after being eliminated by number 15 Penn State in the best of three first round series in the Big Ten tournament. They rallied twice to erase a two-goal deficit. They rallied twice to erase 2-goal deficits before losing 6-5 in overtime Friday, but couldn't climb out of the multi-goal hole Saturday. Charlie Serrato's penalty shot goal with 2:53 remaining iced a 5-2 victory for the fifth-seeded Lions, who leap over the fourth-seeded Wolverines in the pairwise rankings, which are used to determine the participants of the 16 NCAA tournament. They advance to next Saturday's single elimination semifinals. Michigan 18, 15, and 3, which entered Saturday with a 64% chance of making the NCAA tournament, according to College Hockey's news pairwise probability matrix, will be rooting for chalk in the conference tournaments in the hopes of staying on the right side of the tournament cut line. PSU's hyper-aggressive play gave Michigan trouble all weekend. It took a 4-2 lead late in the second period on an ensuing face-off after a Wolverines icing. No Michigan players picked up J.J. Wiebusch lurking just inside the hash marks, and he buried a cross-ice feed for his fourth goal of the weekend. It restored a 2-goal cushion after its first lasted for just 57 seconds. A blast from William Whitelaw on the power play at the 11:42 mark of the second pulled Michigan to within one. Michigan head coach Brandon Arado stressed the importance of getting off to a faster start Saturday, and his team delivered. Forward Nick Mortenhauer, who snapped a 20-game goal drought in Friday's 6-5 loss, roofed a wrist shot just under the crossbar, 123 in for a 1-0 lead. But PSU quickly quieted the home crowd, scoring 15 seconds later. The Wolverines were under duress for most of the period and were outshot 16-9. The Lions received the only power play of the period and capitalized with 1 second remaining. But Schoen had a yawning net to shoot after a juicy rebound bounced right to him. Saturday's loss snaps a 3-year streak of Michigan reaching the Big Ten championship. It won 2022 and 2023 and lost to Michigan State last season. So, again, watching these games, it's difficult to it's difficult to say what we say. The fans that are on the side of Narado's hot seat, just it's the same problems over and over again. Outclassed, outskated, out hustled. Other teams just look crisper with the puck. Michigan on Saturday especially was dump and chase, dump and chase, dump and chase, dump and chase, and when they would dump and chase, it would just within seconds. Penn State's got the possession, they cleared the zone, and back on the other side of the ice we go. So, not much else to say there. Again, disappointing. And if they miss out on the NCAA tournament, It's going to be a long off season. They got a lot of young talent on the team now. They have a lot in the future. A lot of players need to step up. And I think one of their biggest problems they've had over the last 4 or 5 years has been goaltender. Eric Portillo was pretty good at times, but he was kind of a ballerina back there, kind of a flopping fish. He was all over the place. And Logan Stein, Cameron Corpy, Michigan basically just going with a hot hand this year, and it just has not worked out. They have to get that defense. Something's got to happen with the defense. They need a legit goaltender, and they need some help from other teams in the conference to come back to earth a little bit. MSU in particular, but they got to get Dual and the D back. They get control of that rivalry, but. I'll tell you what, I'm definitely not going to go to any more Michigan outdoor games until they can finally win one, because I'm 0 for 2 the last 2. So, yeah, that's where I'm at with that. Anyways, thanks for joining me back for this episode. Of course, we'll be here talking about Michigan hockey if need be. We'll be here talking about Michigan basketball here, probably after a win or loss versus one of those 3 teams coming up this weekend. We got conference tournament starting, Thursday. Either way, March Madness time. It's a fun time of year. I'm exhausted trying to adjust to spring forward. It's never fun to do that. Anyways, go blue. I'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for the support. Again, like, share, subscribe. We have a Facebook group and page now. I just created the page, so I'll leave the link in the description there so you can join either or for discourse or both. All right, guys, go blue. Peace.